You don't need turkey and football, and it doesn't even have to be November, to develop an attitude of gratitude. Let's talk about it today on The Good Life. Welcome, friends, to another episode of The Good Life with Professor G. I'm Professor G, and this is The Good Life, like the sign says. I am so thrilled to be with you again today from the new South Florida studio. We spent some time moving down from Colorado and setting up everything, and it takes time. These things take time, especially if you want it done right. So I am so excited to be with you guys today and ready to rock and roll. The topic is gratitude. And one thing that I am very grateful for today is that I have reached 162 subscribers. You guys have been awesome. I've got people from all over the place, from Colorado, from California. I've got people in Nicaragua. So I've got people even in other countries watching this stuff. So thank you so much. Without you guys, what's the point? So let's dive right into today's topic. Gratitude turns out to be a very important, critical mental health practice because it is a practice. Some of us have developed this attitude of gratitude naturally. Others have had to develop it with effort and being mindful and reminding ourselves of the things that we have instead of thinking about the things that we don't have. And when we learn how to do that, something changes in our lives. We start to focus on the good and start to kind of forget about the negatives. Because let's face it, life happens. We lose jobs, we lose loved ones, we get sick. That's life. And in my personal case, I discovered that when my father passed away in 2008, I was very sad and I was very, depressed, and I was grieving his loss. And he would make my gratitude list, which is, we'll talk about gratitude lists in a little while. He would make my gratitude list quite often, the fact that he was still alive, because he was 53 when I was born. So when I was 10, he was 63. It made for a very strange PTA meeting, because when my dad would pick me up and my friends' dads would pick them up, I would notice, like, oh, yeah, they're very young and he's not. So I would think often about, when would I lose him? When would I lose him? And when I finally did lose him, I was 35 years old, and I was very fortunate. So I reframed that situation. And instead of thinking, my gosh, I lost my dad when I was 35, I started thinking, I had my dad till I was 35. And I was very grateful for that. So part of gratitude is this concept of reframing. You can take a picture of any kind, right? And put a ugly, beat up, dirty frame on it, and the picture does not look as good. But if you remove that frame and you reframe it with a nice frame, now the picture looks different. Sometimes the change is so unbelievable that you don't even notice that it's the same painting or the same picture, because the frame has changed everything. So reframing is a big part of developing this attitude of gratitude. When I work with my clients who are substance abuse cases, oftentimes I share with them the importance of developing this attitude of gratitude. Why is that? Well, there's a couple of common things that substance abuse folks have problems with. One of them is resentments, the things that people have done to me. The other one is remorse, the things that I have done to people. And these two things have this synergy that keep the addiction wheel rolling. You start to think about the things that folks have done to you, and you start to feel bad about life. You start to feel bad about your circumstances and your past, and it drives you to drink. You want to change that negative feeling by taking a drink, by taking a drug. The other one, remorse, because you've been drinking and doing these things, oftentimes you do things to other people that are not the best, right? So you start to feel bad about the things that you do, and it's a cycle, right? This negative cycle of resentment and remorse, and they just go round and round. And one way to break that cycle is by developing gratitude and thinking about the many things that we have everywhere, all around us, every day, that we don't even notice. And those two things cannot exist in the same space. Gratitude and remorse, what I call the negative R&R, right? There's the positive R&R, the rest and relaxation that you do when you go to Cancun and you're on vacation or whatever on the beach. This is the negative R&R, resentment and remorse. Those things cannot exist in the presence of gratitude. Gratitude is like a light that pierces through that darkness. And soon, the person that's in that cycle of negative thinking starts to change their patterns of thought and veer off onto a more positive way of looking at their lives. So it's a very powerful, powerful tool to change. And it doesn't have to be just for people who have substance abuse issues. It could be for anyone, really. It's just more prevalent. You see the power of this gratitude really work in the lives of people who struggle with addiction a lot. But it's for everyone, really, because if you have negative thought patterns and maybe your addiction is something else. By the way, credit card companies hate the attitude of gratitude. They really do, because a person who's grateful for the things that they have don't feel a void and don't feel the need to fill that void with objects that they cannot afford. So they go and get a credit card at a 0.2499% interest rate and blow, right through their credit limit and max them out. And, the object maybe fills that space for, a couple of days. But, after a little while, that void returns, because that void cannot be filled with an object, right? We need to be grateful for the things that we have and not do another thing that's called the comparison game, which I discussed in a previous video, actually, comparing yourself to others as far as accomplishments when I talked about self-esteem. But this is a comparison on material things like cars, homes. Oh, look what so-and-so is driving, and look at my piece of junk. Well, guess what? That piece of junk in your driveway is a Rolls Royce for someone who does not have a car, right? For someone who doesn't have a car, that piece of junk is a Rolls Royce, So it's important for us to have perspective. I'll share the first time that I encountered this attitude of gratitude in my own life. I was very fortunate. As a young man, right out of high school. I had a relationship, with someone, and unfortunately, that relationship came to an end. And I was very depressed and very sad and very down. And the church that I was attending at the time, here in West Miami, Open Bible Temple, I decided to go there to speak to the pastor of the church, Jose Vera, a wonderful man, a very Christ-like person, possibly one of the most Christ-like people I have ever met. Yeah. In fact, I saw a video of him the other day at a Marlins game, and I believe he's 90 years old, and he looks great. And I was so happy to see him. He's a wonderful guy. However, the day that I went, he was not there, but his wife, Maria Vera, was there. So she said, come on in. Yeah, come into my office. And I came in and, I told her what I was feeling, sad and down and depressed. And, I expected her to pray for me, lay hands on me, read some scripture to me, anoint me with oil. But that's not what happened. She gave me a job, which was surprising, uh, because I had gone in there to, feel better, not to work. But she asked me, she said, "Don't you play guitar?" I said, "Well, yeah, kind of, a little bit, sure." And she said, "Well, the homeless ministry needs a guitarist, and they're going this Sunday. So after service, bring your guitar. After service, meet them in the back room, and you can get on the bus, and they'll take you to downtown Miami where they have their service for the homeless." And I thought, okay, I guess I can do that. And I walked out, and I was like, okay, all right, I came for prayer, and I got a job. But what she did for me that day, I didn't realize what it was that she was trying to teach me. And we lost her sadly a few years ago. Um, but she was a very powerful force in the church, I recall. And she was always very interested in people's well being. And at the time, I didn't know what she was doing for me, but I soon discovered what it was. That Sunday, I grabbed my guitar, I went to church, I met with the folks in the back, I got in the bus, we went to downtown Miami, we set up the food and everything, and they said, "All right, we're going to play these songs for you guys." And, I started to play, and I started watching them, sing and participate and all this. And at the time in Miami, in the early '90s, there were these cardboard box cities that had been built under the overpasses in downtown, and some of these were very elaborate. Like one of the guys had built like a small house with separate rooms with cardboard boxes, right? And these folks came out of their little makeshift homes and started to offer us to show, us their homes. And they were so welcoming. And we left after we were there for a while. And when I got home, I put the key in my door, and I turned the knob, and I thought, my God, I have a home. I have a door. And I walked in, and there was AC. And I walked into the kitchen, and there was a refrigerator, and I opened the door, and there was all this food in there. And I thought, my gosh, I'm living like a king compared to these folks. I'm living like a king. And at that moment, all of a sudden, all of the things that I had started to fill my mind, and the things that I didn't have started to dissipate. And then eventually I went to the bathroom, and I thought, I have indoor plumbing. I have a shower. I have a bed. All of these things started to emerge in my mind. And that was the gift that, as we called her, La Pastora, Maria Vera, gave to me that day. She didn't give me a job. She taught me a powerful, powerful lesson. And since the topic is gratitude, thank you, Maria Vera. Thank you, Pastora. That was a life-changing lesson. So one of the things that I do with my patients, my clients, rather, and my students too in class, is developing a gratitude list. Now, there's a lot of research supporting the power of gratitude. They've done all kinds of studies, and what they've discovered is that in every metric possible, the people who demonstrate a higher level of gratitude are healthier, they're happier, they have better relationships, they tend to not have financial trouble, as I mentioned previously, right? If they do get sick, guess what? They're not as sick as other folks. They get well faster. It seems like there's something to this attitude of gratitude, And one very important practice is to develop these practices like gratitude lists. And I'm going to share a few things that folks have shared with me that have stood out in my groups, in my classes. Clean water is one of them. In fact, I have some clean water in here. Well, I think it's clean. Oh, yeah. Okay. Clean water. I'm not a plumber. If something goes wrong, guess what? I have no idea what to do. Maybe go outside. I'd go to the store and buy some Zephyr Hills, perhaps. But it's not just clean water. It's the people that provide the services, the skills to bring clean water to us. It's not just the water that comes out of the faucet. Sadly, even in this country, we've had issues with clean water. In other countries, even today, in 2024, children have died because of drinking contaminated water. Yet we have clean water at our disposal, right? So that's a very good one that when somebody shared it, stayed with me. Plumbing, I just mentioned plumbing. Imagine, not having a toilet. I'll leave that there. Technology, another one. Medical technology. We're living longer because we can diagnose things better because of the tools that we have in the latest with medicine, right? People are living longer. They're discovering things before they become lethal, much sooner. We have all kinds of technology that's beneficial to our lives. Even technology such as this, YouTube and video and being able to speak to someone on the other side of the planet. Being able to see a video of something that's taking place, maybe the birth of a child in another country so far away. We have access to this because of technology. We are living in amazing times. And I often remind my students that because, I get a lot of 20-somethings and I don't think they realize it, that we're living in amazing times. Airplanes is another one that people mention. In fact, I was on an airplane recently and, in 3 hours, I was like transported from one place to another. And the pilots that know how to, operate these machines. Next time you see an airplane in the sky, think to yourself, 200 years ago, that would have been something. But today, they're everywhere. And we can pay the fare and go somewhere where if we were living 200 years ago, it's a cart and buggy. Or a horse. Another important one that I think people share is their mistakes. Grateful for their mistakes. And every time someone says that, I ask them why. And typically they'll say something like, because I learned something. I learned something from my mistakes. In fact, a lot of people have said that they learn a lot more from their mistakes than from their successes. And I tend to agree. We can learn a lot from our mistakes. However, we need to look at our past as a teacher and not a judge. If we can do that, then guess what? Our mistakes can make our gratitude list because it becomes a seed where learning and maturity and development of the self can grow. Mistakes is another one. Music is another one. I just did an episode on music. Such a powerful thing, such a gift to humanity, this music. And loved ones is another common one that people mention. And whenever people mention loved ones, I remind them to do something that actually the literature shows is even more powerful than a gratitude list or other gratitude practices, is to receive gratitude from someone else. So whenever someone mentions a loved one in their lists, I tell them, wouldn't it be cool if you called them up or you texted them and told them, hey, mom, dad, brother, friend, whatever, you made my gratitude list. I think that would be very good for you and for them. In fact, that is a practice that you can also develop. It doesn't have to be every day, but even once a week, you can have a day of gratitude where you say, all right, on Tuesday or Sunday, doesn't matter. I'm going to reach out and message someone who has done something for me this week that maybe I didn't acknowledge them for, or maybe someone from the past that has done something that has been helpful that you never really acknowledged them for, and let them know, hey, you made my gratitude list. Thank you for this, that, or the other, whatever it may be. Another practice is to have a daily list where maybe you have a journal or something next to your bed, and every night before you go to sleep, you write down 3 things for which you are grateful for that day. And you want to avoid repeating things. I don't want to, let you off the hook with like, oh, mom, dad, cat, ferret. The next day, mom, dad, cat, ferret. Oh, clean water. Professor G said clean water. Try to come up with different things. And I promise you, you will find different things to be grateful for. I promise you that. Before I close, sometimes people feel that gratitude has to do with, God or the universe or, something, a higher power, right? And that could definitely be the case. But even an atheist, people who don't believe in a higher power or God or anything, could benefit from developing an attitude of gratitude. How so? The world that we live in, I mentioned earlier with plumbers, the world that we live in, especially today, is an interdependent world. We are interdependently connected. This clothes that I'm wearing, I don't know how to make this stuff. No idea. Think of all the things that went into making this shirt, for example. The textiles, the dye, the sewing, the buttons, the plastic, all of the things for the buttons, all of the things that went into making the shirt. Transporting it from, I think it's Bangladesh, the people that when we sadly had that recent ship that crashed in Baltimore, that stalled a bunch of stuff, right? Because all those things we're connected to. We're connected to all these things, right? So we can be grateful for the many people that went into bringing this shirt and putting it on a shelf. Even the lovely young lady that rang me up when I bought this shirt yesterday. Thank you. I didn't quite catch your name, but I may swing by that store and show her this clip. Anyway, folks, before I let you go, I think it would be a great thing if each one of you out there were to share this video with 5 or 6 friends and let them know that you are grateful for them. And because of that, you're sending them this gratitude video. And in closing, I want to share with you a clip of a gentleman named Hector Rojas. He was my trainer during COVID. And I'll let you watch the clip. This is my coach, Hector.
What's up?
Who kept me in life in shape during COVID with a mask outside. We'll say thank you, man.
No, thank you for everything, man. You're amazing.
You're awesome. Thank you.
I'm blessed to know you.
You too.
Go on then. Let me see that one again.
Ready? If today's video brought something good to your life, please like and subscribe and share it with your family and friends. In addition, if you'd like individual counseling, I'm available in the state of Florida and in the state of Colorado, and my contact information is in the description below. Till next time, go ahead and have yourself a good life.